I've been following the advice of a lot of my friends to do videos, and the last time that I did a video, I did it with my attorney. Then the other last time was with Anastasia, which is my dear friend and an amazing person that has a great talent of reading the cards and everything. But today I came to my dear Paola's office, Paola Rodríguez office. She's the best sex therapist in Miami, in my opinion. Not because she's my friend. I will say you're bad, and I want you to be better, but I really think you're the best. So, Paola, I want you to tell my network who you are and what am I doing here?
Okay. I'm a therapist. No, I'm just kidding. Guys, so thank you so much, Ephraim, for coming to see me to Blue Lagoon. So, guys, my name is Paola Andrea Rodríguez. I am a sex therapist in the beautiful city of Miami, and I have a practice in Blue Lagoon called Life Discovery Psychotherapy. And Ephraim and I met through networking, but him and I have very similar stories. We both grew up in Colombia in the 90s, where our country was basically being ran by drug dealers, and we both have a lot of memories that we share. I remember, when we go to dinner once, we talked about when Avianca, right? Like, you remember the bomb that exploded, and we just kind of related to so much of how we grew up and how that influenced just the way that we move through the world. And I always love to pick your brain, Ephraim.
I know that, and I appreciate it because you're one of the smartest persons that I know, and I like when you pick my brain and when you ask me things, and I respect you a lot, not because I love you and all that, but I respect you as a professional because you have listened to me. The people that listen to me, they have a very special place in my heart. I think that out of 10 advices, you have followed 9, and I love that. I think that you have to seek advice in order for you to be better, and the people that are wise, they listen and they learn experiences by asking around and not by hitting themselves against the wall like I did many times. So I love it when you ask me, and when you pick my brain and when you ask me things. Now, tell me more about your practice. I want everybody to know where you are, where you're located, which is your forte as far as therapy and all that.
Yeah, so as you know, I deal with a lot of sexual related issues, anything. I specialize a lot in couples work. I really enjoy working with men. I think men need more spaces to be able to talk about this stuff, and that's one of the things that I really appreciate about you, that even though you're very masculine and very dominant, right, like there's a very vulnerable part to Ephraim. For those of you that know him, know this part of him.
Yeah.
I mean, you and I have talked about how you grew up around women.
Yeah.
Yet, in a very culture dominated by men.
Yeah.
And something that I deal with my practice often, so a lot of different things, guys, but one of the things that comes often to my practice is lack of desire, but also here in Miami we see a lot of what the media calls sex addiction, but we call it actually sexual compulsivity. And something that shows up very often, and I wanted to kind of pick your brain about this, is men that have had sexual experiences with older women when they were younger.
That's me.
Okay.
Okay. What do you want to know about it?
So one of the things, when men disclosed to me, I was 12 and I had a sexual experience with a woman that was 18 or 20, or I was 15 and I was with someone that were 30. A lot of the times men think, well, she taught me everything I know, and they carry it with pride.
In my case, I'm very glad. By the way, we had a lot of things that we want to talk about, and we've been planning to do this for how many years? 2-3 years.
Yes.
We actually were gonna do some event about suicide. After a friend of mine committed suicide about like 4 years ago. So mental health is very important. I'm one of the people that actually challenge my brain to be better. Going back to your question as far as experiences with older women, I lost my virginity, or I experimented with older person in my family. which that was, I was 11 and she was, 14. And we were experiencing. That's something that is always very common in the Colombian culture, unfortunately. Kids always experience with their family members, and that's something that I guess it didn't mark me, but I guess I enjoyed it, and I
how
learned.
did it frame, Ephraim? How did it influence, right? Like, because I imagine that your sexual appetite opened up at an early age.
Well, 100%. And when I was 11, I had that experience. Then I wanted to have more experiences, and that I came to this country when I was 13. So then when I got here, plus the transition from coming from Colombia to Miami and all of that was very eye-opening, because then I met a lot of Cuban girls, a lot of Puerto Rican girls, a lot of Colombian girls, and we in Miami and the Latino community were very open to sex. So in a way, I became extremely sexual active when I was a kid, and then that made it all the way to now, I guess. But
yeah, but I wonder, Ephra, were there, because a lot of what I see, right? Like, so, if you're experiencing some type of trauma, when I talk about trauma, I'm talking about anything that makes you feel unsafe, right? Like, so we go back to what we were living in Colombia. All of these different things, then coming to a new country at that age, right? Like, this is the age when you're trying to self-define.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're taking out from Colombia and you're put here. And how different, because now we're dealing with a whole bunch of different cultures.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember, what did they call you in el colegio?
Well, the first thing that a black guy and a Cuban guy called me was marimbero. Like a drug dealer, marimbero, and I pick up a fight because of that. Because since I came to this country, I have always been labeled and my family as drug dealers. As you're Colombian, you're automatically drug dealers. I came in the 90s. My family has been here since the 80s. So then we have always been labeled as that. And you as Colombian, you're a woman, so you don't get. To get picked on by federal agents, but man, we do. Talking about racism in this country and all that. I'm brown, I'm Colombian, I'm Latino, and I have always been the profile. You have always been profiled as a drug dealer. Why? Because I'm Colombian, and I do look like a drug dealer. What can I say? What can I say? But
it's stereotypes. Stereotypes are a little bit of
if when you're Colombian and you're smart, if you have money, if you have a nice car and all of that, the first thing that people will think, oh, this guy is a drug dealer. But of course, I grew up here and all of that. And the last thing that I have wanted to be was a drug dealer, because I have seen a lot of my family members and friends that have stopped their life, and they have destroyed their family's life because of easy money. But let's go back to the actual.
So what I wanted to say is, right, like, so then sex, or right, like, fantasizing and wanting more of this good feeling becomes an antidote to your trauma.
Yes, 100%.
Right, so chasing this feeling, it could be, guys, it could be alcohol, it could be drugs, it could be sex, it almost like stabilizes or becomes the antidote to feelings of depression, to feelings of anxiety, to difficulties in adjustment.
Well, in my personal experience, after I had a lot of sex intercourse with a lot of different girls here in Miami, when I was a preteen, and then when I became a teenager, even more, and then when I became an adult, more, and then living in Miami with the party scene, with the drugs, with this, with that, I became a sex addict. I became a drug addict. A lot of people know this, and a lot of people, I guess, they see me as somebody that have changed, because I wanted to change.
How do you define a sex addict in your experience?
In my personal experience, I wanted to have sex with 5-6 women a day, and I by the blessing of God, I'm a man that takes forever to come to a climax. So I'm unable to masturbate. You have always said in your videos, talk about masturbation and all that. I'm one of the few guys, I don't know if there's somebody like me, that is unable to masturbate and to come to a climax. I take forever.
Because you're trying to prolong, okay. So that's called delayed ejaculation. That's what it used to be called. It's now called ejaculatory inhibition. But I wonder, Efra, is it because you're trying to prolong the feeling of feeling good? Or sometimes do you want to ejaculate but you're just unable to?
No, the thing is that I ejaculate a little bit, then a little more, and then I take forever to actually come to a real climax after 3-4 hours of marathon of sex. So, whenever I have an addictive personality, I'm an Aries. So, we Aries, and I'm a fire sign. We get to overdo everything. We get to overdo eating. We get to overdo sex. We get to overdo drugs. So then, for me, sex is a need. It's a need that needs to be. You need to relieve it. It's a physiological need, like going to the bathroom. That's how I see it.
Yes,
So,
but after you were having sex with 5 different women in one day, did you ever feel satisfied?
no, because I was thinking that, and that's why I went to seek a lot of help, and I helped myself. You could hire all the psychologists in the world, and I have the best in Miami, but if you're unable to fix yourself and put yourself on check and help yourself, you're not gonna be able to help. Nobody's gonna help you but you. When I noticed that I was doing that, I had a lot of emotional gaps. I have a lot of emotional distress that I went through when I was a little kid. Through my family and all that. Also, a lot of depression. My family goes through a lot of depression, and I have that gene. But you have never seen me depressed. Why? Because I always put it in check. I lost my mom when I was 20 because of a car accident. I became rich because of her death, and a settlement of millions of dollars.
Which
So,
how
and that didn't help. And that didn't help. A guy with emotional gaps, a guy that was a rebel, a guy that wanted to, I'm the youngest of 2 sisters, and I have always been spoiled. And then you get him money, and then he becomes a millionaire without his mom. Then the drugs, the cars, the women, the traveling, the this, the that, Miami. It was not helpful for me. So then I became addicted to that lifestyle that is extremely empty if you don't know how to handle it.
Yes, Efra, and listen, you're rare because a lot
Very
of
proud
the
of it.
times,
Yeah.
a lot of the times, what I see is that my guys, especially Latino men of color that don't have a lot of access, it's changing, thankfully. But we get this idea that no, men are supposed to be strong. They have to be able to, do it themselves. They treat their depression with sex, drugs, alcohol, money, and everything else. And we live in a city where exactly what you said, the car, the women, is a temporary fix to something that's very deep.
Yeah.
But Ephraim, how did you, where was, and you guys, and something, Ephraim, when he told me that story about his mom, right, like driving to Orlando, you were driving, if I remember correctly, they get into an accident, mom dies on impact, because of the settlement, now you have a whole bunch of money. How old were you when you became
I was
a millionaire?
19.
19.
When I lost my mom, then 6 months later I turned 20, and then I became a millionaire because of a Farson and Ford settlement that we had with against them. Robert Rubinstein was the lawyer back then, and he gave me a lot of advice. He told me, look, because whenever you have the traumas that I went through when I was like a kid, plus now that I'm 20, and then I get this money, a lot of people give me advice. Listen, don't go crazy with this. Thankfully, I got into the real estate business. Thankfully, I knew a lot about sales. Thankfully, I have the discipline of being an entrepreneur. That helped me a lot. But to answer your question about how I was able to, I guess, be normal and be better and not destroy myself today that I'm 40. God had to do a lot with my changes, a lot of prayers from a lot of my women, my sisters, my aunts. I'm surrounded by women. I have always been surrounded by women, and that was very important for me. I really think I'm a miracle. Everything that I have done has been the ability to auto protect myself, my inner child, which I protect them 100%, is that little kid. Like you and I were very much alike. when it comes to that. You have an inner child, tú eres muy consentida, you're so a daddy's girl. I was a mama's boy. So you know, we protect that a lot. We have that in common. So I protect my inner child a lot because the school makes me happy. You know, I could be. I accept myself a lot. Happiness. I found happiness in my heart when I was looking for happiness in the beautiful model, with a trio, in an orgy, doing an ounce of coke every week, trying to kill myself when I lost everything in 2009 after the real estate crisis. And then when I noticed that I didn't have a penny into my name, which was the best thing that ever happened to me, and then I was walking the beach, I realized, you know what? I'm a champion. I could make it again. And being Colombian, we're extremely resilient, Paola. We're extremely resilient. There's not another kind of people like Colombians that whatever you throw at us, we're gonna make it happen. We're gonna be resilient.
What was your rock bottom?
My rock bottom was when I lost $20 million. I was worth $20 million, and I had $1,000 in my bank, and then I lost all my properties. I lost everything except my apartment. They couldn't take that away from me because thankfully we live in Florida, where that was my homestead exemption property. So, but then I was afraid to be poor again, and then I wanted to kill myself. I tried. But then God, my mom, which is my angel, my abuelita also, which is my angel, they help, and that's why I was able to say, you know what, I'm not gonna be a little girl. Let me just be a man about it, and I'm very glad that I failed. I distrust people that haven't failed in life. I remember that you have had many failures with. Sometimes you even told me, no, I didn't know. I was ready to do this. I wanted to throw my towel and all that. Failure in life makes you who you are in the present and the future. I'm not afraid of failure anymore. I'm not afraid of losing it all. I'm ahead of the time. My vision becomes more futuristic to understanding. If I do this, I'm gonna fuck it up, or I'm gonna mess it up. So it teaches you. Failure teaches you.
It's the best professor, I would say.
Yeah, 100%.
Ephraim, how did you take us to now, right? Like, because something that I deal with a lot is people come in and they talk to me about being in the party scene, cocaine. So my sister's an addictionologist, and one of the things that she talks about, she says, cocaine addiction is really hard to treat.
Yeah.
Especially people convince themselves, well, this is just a weekend thing, right? Monday, they can be very functional. So I wonder, how are you able, Ephraim, to keep yourself? How do you find that work-life balance?
Look, since I was 16, I became an entrepreneur at age 16. My first experience with being my own boss was working with my dad, selling cookware and juicers and all that in a company named Carico that was a direct sales company. So then that taught me how to be confident, how to sell, how to create a need, all of this. But I also, when I was 16, I also saw many people, successful people, snoring coke. Stockbrokers, entrepreneurs, rich people, you name it. And I was around those type of people because I have always liked to be surrounded by successful people. And everybody was doing coke. And then, in a way, when I was 17, I tried it and I got hooked.
What hooked you?
What hooked me, the fact that I'm hyper. I'm always being hyper, but whenever I tried coke the first time, it was the high of becoming like Superman. A lot of people who has watched Scarface. I became Scarface many times when I was in coke. So then, the aggressiveness, that I could do it all. I used to get into fights and all that, and it changed my personality to the max. You have seen me always sober, and imagine me under the influence of coke. So me sober, I could be extremely confident, I could be extremely cocky, I could be extremely, so imagine me with coke. So then everybody was afraid of me when I was in coke. But then my mind will go 1,000 miles per hour, and I used to achieve so much when I was in coke. Having sex under the influence of coke is really, really an amazing experience, but it's a very negative experience because it's just a high that once you get hooked, you're unable to stop. It was 9 years that I was having sex when the influence of coke with different women, with models, with the most beautiful women in Miami, and I was craving that. I was the guy that was not working because I got into the real estate business when everybody was in the real estate business and we were just making money on paper. So it was very easy for us to make money. I was making $500,000 in a day. I was flipping houses and making $1 million a day. We would go to the Dominican Republic and spend $200,000, in prostitutes, Las Vegas and prostitutes, and also God has protected me from a disease. 100%. God has always have protected me. So then, whenever you get that high, it's really hard to say no. I stopped in 2009 when I tried to. I was high in coke. I snore almost 2 grams. Okay, that day by myself. I was sitting on my balcony, and I know I jumped. Following day, I got up in my balcony, 6 in the morning, and I was not dead. And then a week later, I got high with a friend of mine, and we had cameras in that office. That was my real estate office back in 2009, and I was so high that I was talking to myself and all that. But then it was pitch dark in the office. And then when I look at the video the following day, I was able to see myself talk, and then a black shadow in my right side, but then a light on my left side. I remember in that moment, in esa nota, in that specific trip, the devil was talking to me, was telling me, kill yourself, but there was a little voice, which I know was my mom, and it was God, that was telling me the most beautiful and positive things, and it was remembering me and reminding me how much of a little kid I was, and I felt my mom's presence and also God's presence at that moment. Following day, I didn't touch coke ever again.
Oh my God, guys, and I think, Ephraim, those stories always make me emotional because the loss of a parent, guys, is so, in my work, it doesn't matter if the person is 10, 13, 20, 60. It is so traumatic because you lose a sense of safety. And there isn't a lot of people that can do that, that can say, no more, because everything, so easy to medicate grief, depression, trauma, with all of the stimulation.
Well, I remember when I was 13 and I was going to Hammocks Middle School. I was a very troubled kid, and then they sent me to a psychologist, and the first thing that the psychologist told my mom, he has ADD, ADHD, and he's dyslexic. Here's Ritalin. I remember when I took the first Ritalin when I was 13. That's when I felt that I was high, and that was the beginning of my addictions. 100%, because I know you're a doctor that have to perhaps send a psychologist involved in a case, and that doctor is gonna prescribe Ritalin, but that's a narcotic that happens to play with your brain.
Claro. But I wonder if that was at the beginning of your addiction, or was it a continuation?
It was the taste
of a coping skill.
Yeah,
right?
it was the taste. I remember when I was 13, when I got the first Ritalin, I was in a different zone. So then when I was 16, I wanted to experience that. And when I was 17, I experienced that with coke. 18, 19, 20, and also drinking. I was being extremely responsible, being high on coke, and also drinking. 7 Black Labels, what we like to drink. 8 black labels like nothing. Being extremely irresponsible. Now I'm a public figure and I have a lot of liability out there. So I don't want to say what is that I did when I was on drugs, because it was extremely irresponsible. As a teenager, as a businessman, and I'm very lucky I'm alive. I'm very lucky also that I didn't kill anybody. I'm very lucky that I was able to help myself, because look, I know you talk to a lot of people every day, but whatever you tell them and whatever the advice you tell them, if they don't put it in practice themselves and they don't help themselves, whatever you're gonna tell them is not gonna work. So you need to work on yourself in a daily basis. I'm a recovering drug addict, I'm a recovering alcoholic, I'm a recovering sex addict. Do I want to have sex with 5 women every day? Hell yes. But I learned, number one, I had an experience with someone that told me you have to treat women like you treat your sisters and like you would treat your mom. So then I started to respect women and not just looking at women as a sex object, because that was the reality in my mind. In my mind, I just was using women for one single reason, to have sex or to relieve myself, and it was true. When somebody told me, you don't respect women. If you will respect women, or whenever you're a parent of a girl, you're not gonna do this. And it hit me. I was like, wow, the way that I respect you, the way that I love you, the way that I look at you has been one of the things that I'm very proud of, because I have changed. You're one of the people that I have changed with. And it's very important that if you have an addiction, you change it and you put yourself in the shoes of that specific addiction. Is that addiction good for you, or is bad for you? All the addictions are bad. People that do pornography, I wish I could watch pornography and get excited. I can't.
Interesting. And you guys, in just fun facts, right? Like, so the last part of your brain that grows actually happens at 25, which is the prefrontal cortex, which helps us see around corners. Because when you say I did a lot of crazy stuff, yes, guys, be really self-compassionate, and not everybody that's prescribed Ritalin actually develops an addiction. Just FYI, or suffers from addiction. So I just want to put that out there.
We're just talking about my experience.
Yes.
But the most important thing about asking yourself, how is this addiction gonna? Has that addiction make me better? I'm also addicted to sugar. I have an addictive personality. I could eat today. I got brevas from Colombia, and I ate the 10 of them. I ate the 10 of them. I love sugar. I have an addictive personality, but I have to put myself in check. I have gout. I love to eat meat. Como tu papá. We love to eat meat. You cannot eat meat every day, pero I want to eat it every day. So, it's everything. If you love yourself and you say that you love someone else, you have to love the temple that you are, with good food, with making better decisions for yourself, and addictions are not good regardless.
Claro, and you guys, and I think something that I do a lot in my practice, because healing from the inside out, because you said it. Ephraim, but how many people don't really understand how to love themselves? And this is the work of Esther Perel. She says, tell me how you were loved, and I'll tell you how you love.
Yeah.
Right, which I think it's so powerful. Ephraim, what would you want our people out there that maybe are in the beginning stages, right? They notice that every weekend they're having, guys, when we think about binge drinking, for men, it's more than 6 drinks, if I'm not mistaken. For women, it's 4 or 5, because our metabolism works a little bit different. So if you notice that you're having over 7 black labels, vodkas, tequilas, and you're doing cocaine on a weekend basis, we're not even talking about a daily basis. So you're in the beginning stages, what would you want them to know?
Look, since I'm 17, I've been drinking. I love happy hours. And I've been doing happy hours since I'm 16. I love to be in a office scenery and then go to happy hours. And I used to do it from Wednesday all the way to Sunday. Back when Alcazaba here in Coral Gables used to be, everybody that had a business or used to work in a business will go to Alcazaba, and that was a happy hour, and we would dance and everything. And those of you that met me in Alcazaba or that remember Alcazaba, you know how it was. So, and we used to drink a lot. At the moment that you're unable to control your drinking intake, that's the moment that you are, in my opinion, an alcoholic.
Yes, guys. And how does one know? How do you know when you've lost control? Right? Like,
When you and me have drink, do I drink more than two drinks?
Nope. And you eat.
That's
we
mine.
eat. Food
Right.
is very important.
That, because I'm driving, because I'm in her house, because I'm in my house, because I might be with someone and I need to take them. I know my limit. It's very important that you understand limits whenever you're doing something that you like, because drinking is fun, because having sex is fun, because actually on the sex part, I was feeling alive every time that I will have sex. That's why I wanted to do it over and over again with different girls, and I will get different experiences. But on the drinking, to answer your question, is when you know that is enough. When is that you know that is enough? If one black label or one margarita is gonna get you tipsy, then don't do it. Then you're not supposed to drink. Because if you get drunk with one drink, and we already talked about this because it was a very personal story of someone related to me. That person will drink one black label, this much, and that person will be drunk already. That's an alcoholic. Why? Because that person is mixing opiums, medicines, whatever. And if you drink one black label or whatever drink a choice, and you're already tipsy and you're already drunk, you are an alcoholic because you're doing that every day. With this specific person, that person was doing every day. I was very concerned about where this person was going, and my experiences was telling that person, listen, you should do this, you should do that. But an alcoholic doesn't want to listen to advice because then they feel attacked. So to anyone, and mainly to my network, because I know your people, you're a doctor and you have to abide by many advice. But to my people, and I have told them many times, if you're unable to drink one or two and stop, drinking is not for you. The same thing with eating, the same thing with everything. It's the same thing with weed. When it comes to weed, I get stupid when I smoke. It's stupid. Whenever I talk to people that smoke, hi, whatever, go and smoke. But and I have a lot of my friends, I'm mainly in the tech business that this is startup that I'm involved in, and every single of these kids, 25, 26, they're stoned every day. But they are productive like that. They are freaking productive like that, and their mind goes 1,000 miles per hour, and they're producing. They're already hooked on that, and I don't know if they're gonna reach my age, if they're gonna get to 40 and look amazing and be able to run for 3 hours, to have sex for 4 hours. I don't know if they're gonna be able to do that when they're 40. Because it's gonna get to a point where, I don't know, if the more weed that you take, the less neurons you're gonna have, and the vape and this and that. That's your life. But I think that with moderation, you could do a lot of things. Yes. I think with the vaping, you bring in oils to your lungs, and that's gonna be messed up. I used to smoke cigars with whiskey, and I love it. But my doctor told me, look, your grandmother died of cancer, your other cousin died of cancer, your aunt died of cancer. Yeah. Bro, you have cancer in your family. The more that you smoke, you're gonna get cancer. I love the sun, money. I could be in the sun 5 hours. I'm actually I do. I'm in the sun. That's why I'm always have a time in the sun 5 hours a day. My doctor looks at my face, at my body. I can't believe you have cancer. I can't believe it because what you have done with your skin has been terrible. I don't put lotion. I don't put sunscreen and everything, and I have abused my skin with the sun. But I love it. And it's one of the reasons why I don't get COVID. It's one of the reasons that why I look always young. But that's also not good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think, right, because it's important for people to know that, like we said, you're a little bit rare, but I think, really asking yourself, what is it? Are you medicating something? Are you medicating something that you can't really see? Because if it were that easy to just stop, a lot of people wouldn't have this stuff. Would be a lot of people not suffering from addiction or alcoholism, right? Like, but what are you medicating? What are you trying to soothe? Because sometimes even with food, you're soothing something. And you said something that's really interesting. When I used to have sex, I would feel alive. There's a lot of studies actually that show how grief, right? Like when somebody loses a loved one, sex is a way in which they cope, is the antidote to death.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting.
I met, I have two friends of mine that they work in a very specific cabaret club or strip club in Miami, one of the best, and they're good friends of mine, they're friends of mine. Both of these girls have been abused, were abused when they were kids. They always allow men to abuse them. And every time that I see them, we do business, but they're friends of mine. Every time that we talk, it's like this, because they are broken. They're very smart women. They have everything to offer the world, but that's the lifestyle that they want. They want to make $2,000, $3,000 a day. More power to them, and that's what they know how to do it. But every time that they have an intercourse, they feel a little bit alive and a little happy. And it's extremely interesting, and I'm fascinated to hear the stories, because sex is for women. I remember when I was 16, my mom used to say, any woman that goes to sleep with you is gonna get attached to you. But then the years went by and I forgot about that. But it's true. Every single woman that has been with me has gotten attached. What have I done? I have stayed away or disappeared because I'm running away from relationships. Good
that's
women.
Another episode.
Yeah, that's another episode. Good women get attached to men because a good woman or somebody that wants to have sex to feel the loved or this or that is because they have a lot of pain that they haven't worked on from when they were little kids. Mainly women that have a lot of partners. They're looking for or that dad or that
yes and
marriage.
no, Evra, because there are women that are very sexually open and not necessarily.
I have been with very sexual open women. I have had open relationships as well, but many of them, all of them want to be loved and they want to find that one.
No, but I would say the same thing is true for men, and I would say that it's not. Right, like because women is not like as a child you don't allow the abuse. It kind of happens and you don't know how to stop it. When it comes to sex work, guys, we can talk about this all day. I actually have an episode talking a little bit about decriminalizing sex work and the importance and money and all of that. It's all of this stuff.
So like amazing, like wow, like I wanna. You should have your own channel.
Maybe I should.
We should. You know what?
Because Ephraim can be a little bit of a black and white thinker, so I'm always, But guys, thank you so much for listening. Ephraim, any last words you want to say to?
Look,
thank you for coming to my office.
Thank you, Paola. I really enjoyed. I respect you. I love you. Paola has an amazing story. If I remember when we met. We hit it off immediately because our upbringing was very similar. In Bogota, and your parents came here with nothing, that they needed to do everything all over again, and they came from wealth. My family as well. So, and then you needed to really go through a lot of obstacles to have your own practice, to have your own things, to have your own house, to have all this ability that you have now, and I love that about you. You're such a networker. You have you always are so kind with everybody. I have never seen you upset because she doesn't want me to know that she gets upset.
Oh, I'm sure.
But the fact that you every time that I see your videos, I get inspired by you. I like it on Instagram, and I think you're doing an amazing job. And we go, let's do this again. And again, Paola Rodríguez, which is your
yes,
your
guys. So
Instagram.
maybe I'm gonna bring in for that to have a man's voice. I need more man.
Yes.
Right, like men
And
need a
we
voice.
need to talk about the suicide, the
Yes,
suicide talks
yes.
that we have to do.
Yes. So my YouTube channel is Paola Andrea Rodríguez. Sessions with Paola, SEXXIONS. With Paola, same for Instagram. And guys, thank you for listening.
Yeah, thank you so much.